Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to the C0ffeecast ProCast, which is now all going to be done on a local recording, which means I can have a little bit less lag in my VODs, hopefully. In this game, we are going to be featuring Grubby spawning on the top left corner here on Shakira's Plateau, and on the top right, we do have Vibe as the blue Zerg player. Grubby, a very, very good ProCast player, and I mean, he is absolutely excellent at playing his race. Has really kind of begun emerging lately as kind of that dominant player. He's come out with some interesting builds. He's the one that has turned a lot of ProCast players on to that Phoenix build in ProCast vs. ProCast play. That's very, very innovative. He's a very smart player. A lot of people love watching him. He's a very good caster too, if you guys did not know. I've seen a little bit of his content. Always a good guy to watch cast. He is very knowledgeable about the game. Vibe, spawning over on the other side of the map here, is a fairly good Zerg player. I wouldn't say that he's the best of the best by any means, but he's a pretty good Zerg player. And since he managed to match himself up against Grubby on the ladder, it obviously means he has some potential to himself. Otherwise, he would not be able to play at such a high caliber level. I really, really love watching Grubby's play, though, as a ProCast player myself. Just does a lot of innovative things. Very, very good decision making. I mean, Day 9 devoted an entire week to Grubby's playstyle. If that just kind of shows you how good he is to have an entire week devoted to him. We are going to have the Nexus first coming out of Grubby, even though that the spawning pool was laid down rather early. I think that's a little bit risky out of Grubby, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal either, because he is just such a baller that he will be able to be just fine. Gonna drop the forwards right afterward as soon as he can. Go ahead and get some cannons up fairly shortly. Gonna be blocking this hatchery quite a bit here. This is gotta be super, super annoying. Just look at the probe dancing around there, taking minimum amount of hits and throwing down the pylon at the very end of it all. Will be interesting to see if that's canceled. Some players just go ahead and let it finish always. Some players will always just go ahead and cancel it right about as it finishes, just to get that 100 minerals back. And now he's going to be coming down to the third and just kind of keeping an eye out, make sure nothing's laid down here, and make sure that, we'll just have that probe in the general area for scouting and maybe laying a pylon later on. And as you see, Grubby is going to be perfectly fine. Even these lings move straight out across the map to try to assault this base. We do have this probe in place to lay down a building right here to finish off the wall off, and the cannon would be done with plenty of time, I feel. And this probe actually miraculously slipping by, drone getting in place to take this quick third base, it looks like. But once again, drone getting by, gonna get stopped by this queen. But that's, oh my gosh, no, actually getting straight into the main base, gonna see no gas, which is going to help him feel just a-okay with whatever he's going to be doing. Shows that his opponent is going to be doing a lot of a very heavy economic play. As obviously without gas, you can't really tech up. We're going to be seeing quite a few Zerglings on the field in that case for any sort of defense, so Grubby can decide what exactly he wants to do with that information. And probably just going to be probing up himself here. Looks like he did fall a little bit behind on that Chrono Boost. Might have been saving it up just a little bit just in case he needed to use those on gateways to get units out really fast. But since he is not going to need that, he's going to go ahead and just be able to use those on the Nexuses. And it looks like going to be deflecting this probe instantly. That Zergling is going nowhere. He's not going to be getting any scouting in. I think there's actually a hole in the wall right here. And I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. I assume it is because Grubby is such an amazing player. I assume that's intentional, but you can never really tell. Third base is almost finished up for Vibe. This is super, super popular, especially on Shakira's Plateau, because this third base and the natural expansion, not all that far apart, especially if you get an extra queen or something just to kind of start creeping between the two bases. It is super, super easy to defend. And it looks like Vibe is going to be just happy sitting on those three bases. And Grubby's not going to really do any sort of crazy aggression to try to take those out. Does have an extra zealot rallied across the map to try to do a little bit of damage. Might maybe a little bit of poking and prodding here. Actually, even going to be setting up a stalker, and then there we go, seeing this extra the extra creep tumor. Actually, it looks like he might be sacrificing a larva inject by one of these queens. Nope, not going to be. Looks like he just got behind on his energy a little bit. Going to be able to take out that stalker with the Zerglings. Never fun to lose those early units. I really feel like Grubby might have been able to save that stalker. but didn't, and that's a matter of fact. Not even going to be able to kill a Zergling over in the mineral line here. But, I mean, once again, that's kind of expected when you do these little potion prods, that you're going to lose a unit or two. And now we're going to go ahead and see that +1 upgrade, taking 2 of his gases, not getting 3 or 4. A lot of the times you'll see players take like 4 gases all at once around that 45 to 50 supply mark. But Vibe is going to go ahead and just get to drop the Evo chamber and be happy just gassing up for a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'd really say that the most likely thing that we're going to be seeing is a lot of Mutalisk play out of Vibe, and as I say that, I notice that he does have a Roach Warren on the field. This could be a defensive Roach Warren, or maybe I'm just trying to defend my point that I said Mutalisks and then the Roach Warren was dropped. But Zergling Mutalisk is a really big style right now, especially very heavy numbers of Mutalisk. I mean, I'm talking like 25 to 35 Mutalisk. It's kind of this beautiful number where it's just super hard to stop. No matter what you have, you could have a lot of Phoenixes, they'll get taken out. Blink Stalkers even have a little bit of trouble dealing with that many Mutalisks when they get clumped up that much. We have a lot of Zealots on the field. Grubby realizing that there is no real stopper for all of these Zealots. I mean, the Queen is the only range unit we have on the map. And I want to point out Vibe doing a very nice little job here, laying down some Spore Crawlers. He has not, I mean, he has his Overlord in the base, but he hasn't been exactly sure what his opponent's been doing. Bam! Lay down those Spore Crawlers. You're safe from any sort of air play. You're safe from any sort of Dark Templar play. Just a nice little play by Vibe to make sure that he doesn't die. We do have Zealots over in the natural expansion right now, doing a little bit of damage to this drone line and the hatcheries. Actually, Drone's going to be able to clean up the Zealot fairly easily. But now that the Roaches are on the field, I don't think it's going to be too tough for Vibe to deal with all of these Zealots. And really, it's not a big deal at all for Grubby to lose these Zealots. And I love the fact that he's just throwing minerals into his opponent. That's one thing that Day 9 was talking about a little while back, is just throwing minerals into your opponent. Don't use a lot of really heavy gas units, but gas is almost always going to be your limiting factor in builds. And you can just keep throwing more and more Zealots at your opponent. We're actually even going to see another move up maybe into this third base from Grubby, but no, falling back, realizing that he can't deal with the Roaches and the Spine Crawlers alike. We actually have a Warp Prism on the way as well. Overlord's actually having free reign over this base for quite a while, seeing absolutely everything that is going on. Warp Prism going to pop out. Oh, here it comes, and woo! That is a beautiful thing right there, folks. I am a huge fan of Warp Prism play. It always adds just this nice little dynamic to the game. +1 armor about to finish up as well. I love the decision to get the +1 armor with so many Zerglings on the field. Do we even have a lair? It looks like we do have a lair on the field now. I wasn't sure for a little bit there. Macro Hatch has been dropped somewhere as well. I'm not exactly sure where. There it is. There it is, just on the outskirts of the base there. Warp Prism is going to be coming into the main base. It looks like that is going to be its drop point. And it looks like it might be going straight into that mineral line as well. Queen is right here, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough to defend against this. And a couple of force fields going down to stop the drones from escaping. A beautiful force field placement there. Unfortunately, the Zealots not doing any damage because they are on not attack, apparently. Trying to get to that Queen, but the AI was having a little bit of problems getting there. Going to be able to pick up a few free drone kills. Roaches are going to be a little bit late coming into the base to help clean up against that. And it looks like this drop, actually fairly successful. Might want to pick up that Stalker. That's a shame that Stalker had to die. But still, getting quite a few drone kills, keeping the drone supply of his opponent down a little bit. Good play by Grubby, just to be very harassing. And that's a huge style out of Protoss right now, is to be very aggressive against your Zerg opponent. It's what keeps their drone count down. It's what keeps them back in their base so they can't be the aggressor. It really lets Protoss play in their own court. And look at this. Vibe having a little bit of problem with Grubby, laying down a Spire. That's not the Spire, that's a Spore Crawler. Laying down a Spire, laying down a Hydralisk Den, getting Roaches out onto the field, doing so many different things, just getting a large different amount of unit composition to be able to do all sorts of different builds against his opponent. And that's really going to allow versatility. And now we actually see quite a few Roaches on the field, getting force fielded off in his own main base. Might actually be able to do quite a nice little bit of damage here. These Blink Stalkers are going to be able to get off of this cliff line very quickly, however. Not quite able to do the damage he needs to do, but doing a little bit, which is, once again, just a nice harassment. keeping Vibe back in his base. You see 20 drones coming out at this point in time. I'm going to love seeing the harvest count after that. Nidus Network on the way, really just dropping a little bit of everything, just depending on what he's going to need. The Spire is going to help with the Colossus, might allow Vibe to do a little bit of counterattacking of his own with Mutalisks, as he's kind of starting to get into a bad position where he's just defending, and he's letting Grubby completely control this game. Infestation Pit, now Vibe has every single tier 2 building on the field. A lot of Zealots being warped in at this pylon on here, which was never actually cleaned up. Harvest count, we see 87 to 65. Once again, that round of 20 drones. Kind of a nice little addition for Vibe, who's actually banking up a little bit of resource right now. Might want to consider dropping even maybe another base, another hatchery. Just go ahead and keep up with that. And now I think Grubby's harassment is going to have to end a little bit here until he gets more Colossus out on the field. Hydralisk number is going to be getting a little bit dangerous for him to aggress against. Might want to, I don't know, might want to consider a second, oh, no, never mind. I was going to say maybe a second robotics facility, double pump Colossus. However, with the addition of the Templar Archives, that's going to give him that extra little oomph he needs in his army. A lot of the time, just one robotics and a bunch of gateways off of one base is not quite enough unless you go ahead and get that tier 3 for your army, because the Hydralisks, it can get to the point where there are just too many Hydralisks on the field, and you can be overrun in that mid game before you can get any sort of real Colossus count up onto the field. It doesn't look like the Colossus have been scouted yet, however, as we do not have any Corruptors on the field. We do have a Nidus Network coming down over in the natural 4th area of Grubby. A lot of roaches coming out of that. Looks like they're going to be coming down into that 3rd base, and there's nothing back here to defend but a few cannons, actually 4 cannons, but the roaches are going to be able to move into a favorable position. Might be able to take this out before the army gets in place, but no, actually not looking like they're going to be doing too much damage, as the army is already here and going to cut off these roaches from that Nidus Swarm as well. In the meantime, in the middle of that map, though, we do have a little bit of a move out of roaches and Hydralisks. 3rd base not going to be taking any damage whatsoever. Very, very beautiful hold by Grubby. There is this Warp Prism in the back of the 4th base, which is going to be taken out. And it looks like Grubby actually moving out onto this creep. Kind of a risky move here, as this is not his full army. And against this Hydralisk number and this Roach number, he is going to be mopped up in a matter of moments. I heard another Nidus Swarm coming up in the main base now. So now we have 2 Nidus Swarms on the field, but it does look like we are going to be having units warping in to deal with that. No damage is going to be done there, and Grubby did retreat out in the middle of the map. We do have Gravitic boosters, which is going to be that Warp Prism movement speed coming out of Grubby, so it looks like he is going to be keeping up with that harassment. A few roaches did pop out, going to actually need another warp in. Another Nidus Swarm coming up in the main base, and actually no more units being warped in to deal with this. Now Grubby has realized that this is happening, going to need to warp in a lot more units. Where are those warp-ins coming in, though? We need those pretty quickly here, but it looks like, no, that is going to be cleaned up. A few roaches still in that main base, only 2 Stalkers are being warped in. Once again, might need just a little bit more to deal with that. Where are the Colossus, however? I have not really seen all that many on the field. I'm hearing them firing somewhere. Sounds like there's one over in the main base here. Indeed, Grubby really needs to get his army clumped up together, as he's just spread kind of thin right now. He has some units up in his main. He had some units over here in his 3rd base. He had some units in the middle of the map. And now finally getting a chance to clump his army up and start doing a real push out across the map. Not the best unit composition for Vibe against the forces of Grubby. These 3 Colossus, High Templar with Storm fairly shortly, and it looks like once again Grubby's army getting a little bit split up around this island right there. It does look like that Nidus Swarm harass was enough to keep Grubby back in his base for a little bit, allowed Vibe to remax out his army. 3 Colossus is going to be roasting away. However, there are Corruptors on the field to begin dealing with this. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though, because there are quite a few Blink Stalkers on the field. A couple of beautiful storms going down on top of those Hydralisks and Roaches as well. Very nice storms, going to be able to just lower the health of those units very, very quickly. Going to be able to do some nice damage. However, all the Colossus have been cleaned up. The Corruptors will all fall, however, as there is nothing left to defend those. Actually, one Colossus even managed to stay alive. Corruption is even down on that Colossus. Nice job by Vibe to be able to use that kind of the lesser usability. Very nice to have that. A lot of spine crawlers going down in the middle of the field, as well as trying to take a 5th base. Kind of an inopportune time to trying to expand right now as you're being attacked. It does look like this is probably going to be cleaned up by Vibe, however. The supply count's fairly even, but a lot of roaches on the field. Going to even be able to pick off a couple of free Immortals and an Archon. However, Grubby did force the cancel on this 5th base, so all was not for naught. And even going to be able to blink up into this 4th base. However, it looks like there might be a few too many spine crawlers here. Nope. It looks like he's going to go ahead and push his luck here. In the meantime, trying to push along the top side as well, but all the roaches are back there to defend. It doesn't look like Vibe is sending any units down to the lower side of the map to defend against this, however, and Grubby already having an army being remackered up. I heard another Night Swarm coming down to the 4th base down here, going to be pushing a lot of roaches in here. However, with these 2 cannons and a quick little warp and of Stalkers, that is going to be taken care of just easy peasy. More Stalkers are still over here in this 4th base. However, it looks like the reinforcing roaches have come in here. Not going to be able to do any more damage down here. However, was able to clean up a few of the spine crawlers and drones, so might be able to be in a position to counterattack once again in a little bit here. And the workers lost, we do see 24-6 for Vibe. However, not really catching up in that harvester count. Well, catching up quite a bit, I should say, actually, in that harvester count. He's kind of at this perfect point where he doesn't really need any more. It looks like he might even be, Grubby might be trying to take this base, or just getting his blink stalkers in a better position to be blinking up to harass. We do have a lot of roaches and zerglings on the field. I do not agree with that unit composition coming out of Vibe, but there we go, having some Broodlords come onto the field. I'm saying that because the Colossus is obviously going to be so good against all of these pretty much the entire army right now. Storm's going to be good against the Zerglings in the army. Stalker's going to be able to clean up the roaches. Broodlords are coming onto the field, however, but without any infestors down on the field. We do have only 2 infestors on the field to be able to lay down fungal growth to stop those Stalkers from blinking up under the Broodlords. It's going to be a little bit difficult, I feel, for Vibe to defend against this army composition. A nice storm did go down. That storm is going to help quite a bit with the Broodlings. Obviously, that storm being designed to not do too much friendly fire. Actually, yeah, that's a little point to make for you Protoss players out there. The reason you don't see High Templar and Storm being used all that much in Protoss versus Protoss is because it was actually kind of designed to not do too much damage versus the Protoss base itself, so you can drop Storms on top of yourself and still do a lot of damage to your opponent. Oh, a lot of these Stalkers caught on move order, not doing nearly the damage he could have been doing, and now he's actually going to find a lot of his Stalkers separated from his army with all of these roaches rapidly approaching his forces. Needs to get out of there ASAP because it does not want to get caught by those fungus growth. A few Stalkers caught out in the middle of the map with all these Broodlords out here. A couple of these infestors sitting there as well. I would love to see more infestors. We do have Void Rays on the way as well as Charge for those Zealots. Charge is going to be a very nice addition to this army, especially since we have so many gateways on the field. But that is a lot of Broodlords. That is 10 Broodlords on the field. Just think of the DPS that these units are going to be doing. Broodlings do have that 2 Carapace, which is going to make them fairly hardy to be able to take out. 3-1 upgrades for our Protoss player in Grubby, who has been maxed out for a little bit here. It does look like I did miss a Night Swarm over here in the main base, as we are seeing that Robotics Bay being remade by Grubby. A lot of High Templar on the field, plenty of Storm to go down on top of this army. A lot of Stalkers being warped in as well. That's what he needs at this point. In fact, I really like this composition out of Grubby. Grubby on so many bases, blinking back up into this 4th base of Vibe to be able to try to take this out once again. It doesn't look like there's any reinforcing units back here. Just going to be pushing up with these Roaches and Broodlords. Might want to save a couple of Storms for those Broodlords, as the Broodlords having so much health. It might be nice just to try to weaken them just that little extra. And it doesn't look like these Stalkers might be able to clean up this 4th base. And once again, nothing coming down to reinforce that. Now these Broodlords are coming in, assaulting the 5th base for Grubby. Stalkers could potentially blink on top of these Broodlords. However, with these infestors on the field there, might prove to be a deadly option. 4th base is cleaned up by these Stalkers. We're going to go ahead and blink onto the low ground, but there's so much over here. Grubby's just going to have to stack this 5th base. There's absolutely nothing he can do about against this number of Broodlords right now. Just needs to try to keep on top of his Void Ray protection. I feel would be the best option, as there's not all that much anti-air until the Corruptors come onto the field as well. And this is going to be the key moment for Grubby to jump up and engage, blinking up under those Broodlords, even getting a couple of Psionic Storms down on top of those as well. Going to be able to do a little bit of damage, but I feel like Vibe is going to come out on top of this battle, blinking up onto the high ground, going to be able to take down a couple of extra Broodlords. Colossus are going to, however, fall to these Corruptors. A couple of Roaches were on the field, however, those are being cleaned up as well. And actually, it doesn't look like Grubby's going to be able to pull out in this battle. A couple of Infestarians being dropped on the high ground to try to add a little bit of extra DPS. However, Grubby was able to fend that back. A lot of Corruptors on the field going to stop any sort of Void Ray Colossus play against those Broodlords, however. Good composition coming onto the field by Vibe, getting a couple of extra Queens up here to go ahead and transfuse on top of those Broodlords. Grubby wants to just push this right now, however. So many transfusions going down, a couple of Infestarians as well, but that's not exactly going to be what Vibe needs in this engagement. And now Grubby is once again going to be able to take a supply advantage in this battle. And it looks like he's going to be doing a very good job in this battle. Might want to even try to take out a couple of these Corruptors to stop any extra Broodlord production, to stop any Colossus sniping as well, if he does choose to get any more Colossus out on the field, which it looks like he's switching over to Immortals at the moment. Gonna throw some Zealots down into the 5th base here of 5 to try to take that out. It looks like he might get it. It's gonna be kind of a close call. Roach coming in to reinforce it. In the meantime, the Starkers are moving up this extra little area, which never had another hatchery remade. 4 health does go down. The 5th base has gone down, as well as the 4th base, so it doesn't look like Vibe is rapidly running out of options to mine. In fact, he only has about a half mining base in total going on right now. Grubby has plenty of bases mining. So it looks like that advantage is going to go to Grubby. Going to go ahead and take out this Nidus network to stop any more harassment play. And Vibe's army is going to try to come up here and defend against it. Actually going to get a fungal growth down and is going to be able to clean up all the Stalkers, which... oh man, it's kind of a close game because the macro goes heavily in favor of Grubby. We see 1,600 resources to about 750 resources being gathered. Gas fairly much similar at this point in time. I would love to see actually a little bit of Warp Prison play, maybe just to kind of deny any extra bases that Spinecrawler is going to bleed out. Actually, we do have more Broodlords on the field, however, and nothing much to stop the Stalker numbers, not where they need to be, only at 12 Stalkers. We do have a few High Templar on the field, but once again, not quite what you need against so many Broodlords. It's going to be a little bit difficult for Grubby to defend against this, seeing as there are no Corruptors on the field. Void Rays might be the best option at this point in time. There is going to be a siege up over at the 5th base of Grubby once again, blinking his Stalkers into what was potentially the 4th base of Vibe. However, that has never been remade, and is now going to be evacuating all of his drones over to do some more long distance mining because he is just running out of income options right now. It's really coming down to this last army. If Grubby can destroy this army, I really feel he's going to have the game, as once again the mining advantage going so far into Grubby's favor. And it looks like Vibe actually falling back. I think the Vibe would be much better off going for a base race at this point in time, as he has absolutely no income. Really needs to set up an expansion here. Should not be spending that on anything but making an expansion at this point in time. We do have Colossus production coming back on the field, as well as a lot of Stalkers, and this is why I was saying the base race might have been a better option, because now Grubby is getting the chance to get so many Stalkers on the field to combat these Broodlords. There are 4 Broodlords there, 8 Broodlords in total, moving out all over the map. And, oh, actually having to cancel the hatchery that he just made. He does not have the resources to afford to be able to do that. Gonna go ahead and make the 4th base up next to his main and natural there. Oh, I apologize. I just had to sneeze right there. I hope I did get my mic muted for that. I'm not sure I hit the right button. Roaches and Infestors moving out into the middle of the map. Broodlords right behind. Chargel's coming in, going to try to take out this 4th base. However, I don't think they're going to quite be able to do that. No, indeed, that army is going to come up and reinforce the 4th base. Grubby gonna go ahead and try to lay down a 5th base of its own once again. Has not been successful in the past. It doesn't look like the armies are going to be engaging up on the top side of the map in the middle here, and the Colossus is going to be able to take care of the Broodlings fairly well. However, none of the Stalkers are getting up under the Broodlords. Broodlords doing so much damage to the main army. Gonna get so many fungal growths down on top of those Stalkers. Stalkers very low on health, finally getting the feedbacks on top of those Infestors, and a couple storms down on top of the Broodlords. However, he's lost so many Stalkers, just going to have to fall back. Look at how low these Stalkers are on health. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Stalkers on just 5 health from all of those fungal growths. Broodlords are going to be pushing into the 5th base right there. No counterattack coming from Grubby at this point in time. Grubby really needs to try to defend this area. He cannot let these Broodlords fall back and get transfused, as that might be, I mean, that would just be a very bad instance, as the income tab is going to show very even for both players. Fairly short here, does finally get the blink up under those Broodlords. Going to be able to focus fire those Broodlords with that +3 attack and +3 armor. Going to be very hardy against the Broodlings as well. Gonna finally be able to take out all the Broodlords. All the Broodlords are dead. The Infestors have completely run out of energy. Grubby taking a very nice lead in this game now, as once again he has the income advantage. Too many Harvesters on the field actually for Grubby at this point in time, as he just doesn't really have the bases to saturate all that. We see a lot of unit Harvesters down at the 4th base. Need to maybe look at transferring some of those fairly shortly. Actually needs to get a Nexus up right there. A Nexus somewhere. There we go. We have a Nexus going along the bottom. However, Vibe did just lose his mining base and a few drones as well, which he really cannot spend resources re-macroing his drone army. I really feel Vibe are just rapidly losing grip in this game. 87 to 163 supply. Pardon me. Grubby even throwing some Stalkers up into the main to start picking away at whatever infrastructure there is left. Roaches are going to go up and go ahead and deal with that. However, we do have 2 Nexuses on the way for Grubby and full probe power out of Grubby right now as well. So Grubby definitely has the advantage in this game in supply, in macro, I mean, I don't know how the upgrades are looking. I guess I can check that out real fast. Actually, yeah, it has the upgrade advantage as well. I mean, advantages are going to Grubby on all fronts, even has the tech advantage at this point, because Vibe just does not have the resources to go ahead and go back up to tier 3. In fact, you see that he's remaking Hydralisk right now. Not a position you want to be in. There are quite a few infestors on the field who laid down fungal growth on top of the Stalkers. However, I don't feel like that's going to be a big deal, as the Stalkers do not need to do any sort of blink up under Broodlords at this point in time. Oh wow, nice little storm going down as that High Templar did die. But I really feel like Vibe should not be engaging this army. He should know that he cannot engage this army, as a lot of his supply is coming out of these infestors, which now have absolutely no energy. Infested Terran is going to be worthless with this Colossus and Storm on the field, and the Blink Stalkers are going to be able to take care of the Roaches pretty easily. We are finally getting bases remade for Grubby. Going to go ahead and start getting those saturated. His income will skyrocket and will leave Vibe in the dust, as we are seeing right there. And that's really going to be the telltale sign of the end game, I feel, right here, as I just don't think Vibe is going to be able to deal. He is going to be trying to lay down some infested Terrans in this mineral line, I assume, is what he's going to be doing. Might pop up and lay down a fungal growth instead. But I don't feel like it's going to be enough, because that's almost going to be helping Grubby, because Grubby getting near max out here actually has too many harvesters as it is. So killing a few off might help him out just a little bit, actually. In the meantime, Grubby just pushing across the map, going to go ahead and evacuate the probes from that base. In the meantime, going to be coming up, going to try to take out one of the last little areas that contains drones. And all these drones are actually going to be dying here. A few Hydras do spawn onto the field over in this third base. However, it's not going to be enough. This base does go down. There's a GG, well played from Vibe, and a very beautifully played game by Grubby. This is why he's been so popular. We saw him get hit by Nitoswarm after Nitoswarm, just being very, very resilient against those attacks. It was a beautiful hold against those Nitoswarms, and I want to commend Vibe for using those Nitoswarms, because when he was getting hit and hit and hit, he counterattacked with those, did not go for those that obvious Mutalisk counterattack, which could have been easily countered by the Storm Templar. Went for the Nidus network instead, was able to do a little bit of damage and actually forced Grubby to fall back, which is really when Vibe started being able to expand, get all of his Broodlords up, and was able to do quite a bit of damage. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for joining me here on the Coffee Cast. I really hope you enjoyed this ProCast between Grubby and Vibe. This was just a ladder match, so, you know, only a best of one. There are no follow-up games. Please go ahead and check out coffeebreak.weebly.com. That is coffeebreak with a 0.weebly, WEEBLY.com. And there you can find a newbie guide for you younger ProToss players. You can go to the community page, find a coach, find a practice partner, and get rolling. And you can also go to the VODs page and find a nice, easy to follow setup where you can find all of my matches I've ever casted. Find you know, game 1, game 2, game 3 of each of those matches. Lastly, if you guys have any replays you would like to send to me, and I will cast those for you, you can send those to coffeebreak1337@gmail.com. That is coffeebreak with an O, 1337@gmail.com. I will go ahead and respond to an email just to let you know I did receive it and that I will be casting it if I will. And I will almost guarantee you I will cast those games if you send them to me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I thank you once again for joining me here on the Coffee Cast, and I hope that you will join me for my new amateur attack schedule, Mondays and Fridays at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Until next time, folks, this is Coffee Break, signing out.